Hello. I have written an apology letter in regards to an incident that happened at the Greyhawk courts in January. If you would like me to read that right now. Dear CDD board and all Greyhawk residents, I would like to start this letter by saying that I am sorry. I made poor decisions that I did not fully think through prior to making these mistakes. My actions were unacceptable and unwarranted. I did not intend to harm anything or anyone, and I now realize that my poor judgment reflects not only bad on myself, but bad on everybody that lives in Greyhawk Landing. I'm not a bad person, I just made a bad decision. I was not showing any respect to the place that I live. I am very embarrassed by my choices, and I am prepared to reimburse any damages that I may have caused. I am taking steps to ensure that I do not make any more childish decisions by fully thinking things through before I do them from now on. My sincere apologies, Elliot Grims.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Chris Hoyle. Test. There we go. Thanks, Jim. I know that there's a lot of discussion going around regarding a little bit of raising some CDD fees. One thing I'd like to see from our board is kind of a list of daily job responsibilities from a couple people. That would be probably Ed and Carlene. Probably submitted to everybody just to take a look as far as consolidation is concerned and cost savings. I don't know if that consolidation could be one full-time position, just food for thought. That's my opinion, and I'll leave it at that, but that's all I had for everybody.
Thank you, sir. Next up, John DePalma.
Hello, testing. All right. Board members? Okay. Concerned with traffic concerns. Off-duty was implemented approximately 10 years ago. I was an ex-board member, and about 2008, we brought in off-duty. It's been ineffective. The traffic concerns continue. The reckless driving, the speeding continues. The whole sheriff's department out east doesn't do their job with traffic. We've had incidents out on 64 with several fatalities now, and we continue to have it in our own community. Spoke with county commissioners, spoke with the chief, sheriff, the previous sheriff who lived right in Mills Creek. Ineffective, fell on deaf ears. Where the board goes from here, I'm not sure. The county commissioners have a little bit more power over the sheriff's department to implement when they have concerns from a community such as ours, to take some action to say, listen, there's true concerns, especially when we probably paid close to $500,000 in the past 10 years. And we received compliance. We did all we could do in here. And they sat on their hands off duty. They sat in locations, and they never truly patrolled. They haven't pulled anybody over in a long time. And it continues to be a problem. Falls under security also. That helps with having more presence and good security in here. And it's just not happening. And maybe the board can come up with some other ideas or some other means with the county commissioners to help to achieve better visibility in here. So thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ollie Kite.
I'm referencing the agenda that was sent out in the newsletter. And because of the planned increase in CDD fees, which affects and impacts the entire community, I think it's imperative that the board survey residents to determine what they believe are essential to the community versus a small percentage of residents who voice their grievances on Facebook or attend the monthly CDD meetings. Needs outweigh wants and desires. If the board is determined to go forward with a plan to change the security posture without surveying the residents, then what plans have been made to make sure residents and their guests follow the rules and regulations that have been established, especially at the pool? What's the process to make sure that only residents and their guests use the facilities, such as the rec center, the pool, tennis courts, etc.? What will be the process when the gate fails to open, trucks run into the residents' entrance at the main gate and damage a building? What will be the process after hour security for the common areas such as the rec center, clubhouse, pool areas? The majority of individuals who utilize Greyhawk Landing facilities these are individuals outside the community. They aren't adults, they're a younger crowd. They access the community by walking or through bikes. The board members all indicated they would be physically responsible, yet there has been no hesitation about raising the CDD fees to cover planned security changes. What other fee increases are planned for the future when the board makes the decision to construct dog parks or pickleball courts? If there's no plan to implement an after-hours roving security guard, then HOA fees will increase to cover the cost of a roving security guard. How much money does the board currently plan on putting in reserve to cover capital expenditures and repairs for the future?
Thank you. The last audience comment card I received is Walter Wolchak.
Hi, I'm Walter Wozak, and I'm glad I'm following Ollie. I've been reviewing just about everything I can about the security at Greyhawk Landing. There's a number of issues that I've noticed that I really don't want to say in public, which I'd rather just mention to one or two members, because the public should not know about some of our deficiencies. But my overall opinion is we should keep the manned security, eliminate the 37747 codes from the front and rear gates altogether. There's very simple solutions around that. Add a license plate camera at the visitor gate. We don't have a valid license plate camera. And then optionally add RFID readers. One of the big concerns from what I understand is Allied Universal is raising their rates by 14%, which is what started this whole issue. We can save that entire 14% just by being a little bit more careful on how we allocate the guards. For instance, one of the staff members here suggested that during December to March, we dropped only one manned security guard for the two amenity centers. During cold weather, and it's throughout the year, during cold weather, there may be days with little or no activity at either area. Right now, the cameras that we have can be watched via tablets or iPads, so one security guard can be watching the security at the other gate. With regards to the manned security guards, there's a lot of opinions going around, including on Facebook, that are absolutely incorrect. What has happened over the past year with the security and the manned security and the video surveillance is like night and day. A year ago, we had only one screen watching hardly anything. It was very slow, no ability to go back through the videos. There have been significant improvements, and now I've met with all three shifts repeatedly, and they are all watching specific areas for teenage issues, and they're doing a very good job at it. They're catching people, they're chasing them down, but they've been really advised to call 911. In any case, the teenagers are being made very aware of this, and I think habits are changing right now. A couple of other things. I mentioned there's 3,500 homes here, 3,500 people here out of 1,250 homes. We don't have a study for how many cars go in and out, but at Lakewood Ranch, a comparable community, has 20,000 people going through one particular gate, just one gate, of which 5,000 are visitors. So we could extrapolate that to say that our main gate can be sustaining that kind of traffic. So anything that we do to actually slow things down is going to be hugely detrimental. I understand that people are concerned about the clickers, that non-residents can get access to the clickers. We could optionally get RFID readers to take care of that problem. But as far as security goes, in this neighborhood, our main issues have been teenagers that live in this neighborhood, and studies have confirmed that in these kinds of communities, the most likely criminal is the one living down the street, not coming from the outside. So there's just different things to consider. I've sent a long set of emails to all of you, so you already know most of my feelings, but I'm just trying to hit a couple of highlights here and there. One thing about the vendors, I would recommend against either of the two main vendors for numerous reasons, and instead we can actually implement even automatic license plate recognition for no more than $800 for our main camera that can do everything that you can imagine. And there's various other solutions that are more sophisticated. We could add them for other gates, but the visitor gate is the primary issue. We can add RFID scanners for as low as $1,400 per gate. You can be talking a total price of $40,000 plus having somebody dig up and run some conduit. So there's all kinds of manageable things that we can do ourselves and a very reasonable cost. And like I said, you can cut down to 14% increase from Allied by either just adjusting their hours, they're very flexible, or get another quote from another company besides Allied. But I think they're doing a very good job right now they are.
Thank you, sir. That concludes the audience comment portion of today's agenda. Moving forward, the next item is business items, being the first thing is the security system proposals. You do have the vendors present. It looks like we do have Allied present, and we do have Envira present. Is anyone here from Secure Team at this time? They did indicate they were going to be here, so. Board members, would you like to hear from any of the vendors one last time? They are under tab number 1. The proposals are tabs 1A through 1E of your agenda.
I'd like to hear from Allied on a proposal from them for a manned system and what an actual prevailing wage is in our area for security guards.
Good evening, folks. My name is Mike DeRoche. I'm the brand manager for Allied Universal Security Services.
There's a mic right there for you.
I'm pretty loud. I tend to talk a little loud,
You're
but
good.
you get it recorded. It's on. My name is Mike DeRoche. I am the branch manager for Allied Universal Security Services. It's a pleasure for me to be here with you. Allied Universal has been your security partner for a number of years. I thank you, the few individuals that got up here and did speak honestly and commended the team. We have a good team that has been here. I am very interested in this property. It's been in the Allied portfolio for a number of years, going way back to 2008. And I will say, before I get into your question, I'm sorry if do you mind? I should ask this. Does the board mind if I? Should be pointed. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. Talk later. If anybody has questions later, I can talk with you. Sir, what would you like me to say?
I just want to hear basically how the current system's working, how it's manned, what would be improvements that you would see, and what is an actual prevailing wage for a quality security guard in the Sarasota-Manatee County area.
Okay. We currently have approximately 265 hours. It depends on the pool hours. We have gate officers, 168 hours. That's 24/7 at the front gate. We have a pool officer at the rec center and the other pool, depending on what needs the community has. We often shift those out around to meet your needs. We also have a patrol that goes out in the evening to address parking and does a routine patrol.
Now, is that patrol, does that compromise the other positions or move those positions and make
Yes,
them
it does.
vacated?
Yes, yes. The gate officer locks up the front, he closes down the front gate, and he does go on patrol. Yes, it does. He does that twice a night. Now, the prevailing wage, I will say this, as I did mention, that the Allied Universal has been here since 2008, I believe, without looking at my notes. And when I met with the CDD and the property manager in October, my main concern here was a proper prevailing wage for the team that was here. Things in life go up, cost of living increases, and the team that has been here has not had an increase since 2011. And that creates a problem. Me, as a branch manager, I have over 70 locations. I have hundreds of officers that work for me. And it becomes a challenge when I actually have officers that refuse to man a post because of the wage. Now, I also said that I'm very interested in this property, and I will do all that I can to retain this property and work with the community here. We are not locked into just a gatehouse. That's not all we do. We can provide mobile patrols. We can provide a variety of services. The concern that I have is proper wages, but working within that. When we did discuss wages with the team a number of months ago, that was brought up, and the main reason was so we can get a quality officer here. The prevailing wages in this location are approximately pay wages for the actual officer about $12.25 an hour for an officer.
So currently, we're at least $1 an hour.
No, the wages here are $9.25.
Oh, so
And what I've
we're
done-
at $3.
Correct. What I have done,
100 per hour.
because,
Okay.
because I value Greyhawk Landing and the relationship that Allied Universal has had here, I have done for the business people that are here, I have compressed my wages. I have eaten that, and I have put officers here I've paid them more just to try to give a quality, the service I believe is necessary. In any partnership, there is a hand-in-hand, and I've taken that first step. What I've also done is that I know we have a supervisor. I've asked him to come in early and check on what is being done in the evening. I pay for that. I haven't asked Greyhawk Landing to do that. We've instilled that over the past week, where he comes in and he checks gates and doors to ensure that what is supposed to be open is open. So I'm willing to work with the board to do what is necessary.
Got it. So would you feel that at $12.25 an hour, we would get a more quality person and a more attentive person than we currently have?
Yes, sir. I do believe that. But I also believe if there are budget constraints, as obviously there are, that we can have a redeployment of personnel. What seems to be very important to the community here is not only access control, but also a force multiplier, a show of, I used to call in law enforcement, a showing of the flag, where we can patrol in a marked security vehicle. That may be an option that the board would be willing to contemplate to offset some of the concerns with kids and what's going on in your pools.
I have a concern that we have post orders, and your regional manager, Jerry Cushing, had no idea they weren't being followed. They weren't followed for at least 6 months until I called him. What's happening, because obviously the supervisor has stayed the same, what's happening to assure that duties are being followed through?
Okay. Yeah, what I've also instilled in the past 2 months is I've had, Allied Universal has multiple properties, as I said, but we also have field supervisors that are on patrol. And what I've directed, since I've heard about this, what I've directed the field supervisors are to provide, to come and do random checks on the second shift, which would be the 4 p.m. to midnight shift, and on the third shift from midnight until early morning hours, and they come random. And they would come in and they would ensure that the officers at the gate are attentive and that patrols are being done properly.
But that hasn't been done for the last 9 years. That's just started happening in the last 2 months.
2 months, yes. I was made aware of the problem.
Right. In addition, I was having, the roaming patrols are not happening. I left my car in the street intentionally for 4 days. It wasn't tagged.
Well, they may not have tagged the car,
Right.
but they have gone on patrol. Now, one of...
The post order's not being followed because they're supposed to be tagged.
One of the, what I've done in other communities where I've had board concerns that officers are not on patrol, what I have done is I have instituted cameras in the car, GPS enabled. Also, we institute scan points at various locations so they can show that they're going to a location and they scan it and it comes up on a report that can go to the client or a board member anytime that you want those reports. So we found that, and this is something that I pay for, not me personally, but out of the budget, that we don't ask the community to do, and we put that in the car. And this way, we've had situations where community said, hey, I don't see them driving with the light on. The officer says, hey, I'm driving with the light on. Okay, he said, whatever, let's go to the videotape. And we just look at the video, and we can see where they've been and what they've done.
But would only occur in your vehicle. If we opted to use your vehicle, then that would be a verification process?
Yes. Otherwise, if, that would be something that the board wanted to invest in their own vehicle, they could do that. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions for Allied board members? That budget breakdown that he's mentioning is under tab 1E of your agenda as well. Page 74.
And if I could just say, that budget that we had met with Grant and we had talked about was as is, not with the current concerns that I'm being told now exist. So that can be modified and adjusted accordingly.
So to make it a realistic budget, that $11 would have to go to 12 and a quarter.
I'm sorry, sir?
To make it a realistic budget, to have quality people here, your wages would have to go up $1 and a quarter on the green list here,
Well,
proposed.
that is the prevailing wage.
You want to see what they're looking at?
I have it here. I know what my paid now. That would be a realistic wage.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
They're grossly underpaid. When you can go to McDonald's and make more money than you can as a security guard here, it's something wrong.
Well, I will say that my greatest competition is not with security companies, is with retail and fast food and service providers, yes. But again, what we can do is we can come up with a different plan other than what's been proposed based upon your needs now, as a force multiplier and being more mobile as opposed to what we are now.
I think Grant and I sat with you in October, and that's when we proposed going from 9 and a quarter, which is the original budget, to 11. Now, if we're proposing going another $1 and a quarter an hour, he indicated to us at that time that you'd get better quality service, I'd put it that way, and more consistent service, so you don't have somebody in here for 1 month at a time and then gone, and you're constantly breaking in new people.
Yeah, I've elevated the wages to 11 myself, obviously without Greyhawk paying for that, as a gesture of I want to work with you.
Do you have an estimate of what that would occur if we went from this $11, and are you including also an additional dollar amount for the site supervisor, because he's currently in this budget at $15? Are we going to propose raising him also?
You'd have to.
No.
I would think
No,
so.
that would be, no, that wage, his wage, the site supervisor here is, in my opinion, significantly underpaid. And I also would like to take this opportunity to say that we are looking to make a change with your site supervisor. I believe we have somebody that is a better fit, that is a stronger supervisor.
But I guess in all likelihood, if we raise the other patrols in the rec center and the clubhouse, we would also likely increase the wage salary for the site supervisor.
No, sir, the supervisor, no, that wage would be good for your site supervisor. That is a prevailing wage that we have in various communities in the Lakewood Ranch area.
Do we have any idea, Grant, what, if we do, what the numbers would go up? Right now, from the original up to the $11 rate, it was about a 14% increase. I just wondered what that would be if we do the 12, go to 12 and a quarter, and then if you also were to raise the site supervisor some, equitable amount the same way. But if you say we don't have to do
No, I
that.
believe you do not need to do that.
Okay. And this is your opportunity.
Yes, sir. No, I'm not looking, I'm looking for a win-win situation. I'm looking to provide a quality supervisor in the other...
I'm just trying to avoid having you come back in 3 months and tell me, yeah, we want to raise
No,
it.
sir.
I'd like to know it right up front.
And I appreciate
Okay.
that, and I'm telling you that.
Is the
Thank you.
site supervisor on site for the whole time, or is he shared between a couple communities?
No, he's dedicated to the site 40 hours a week. They generally work Monday through Friday. During the day, most of the community's out and about. But we have sites where communities want site supervisors working different hours.
It'll increase that number to $22,486.
It goes to 240, basically, 240,000 a year.
Interesting question. We basically pay for the security people to do patrols and tag people, as apparently they didn't tag you, but they tag people for parking, correct? And I do believe, maybe I'm wrong, but please let me know, that then the HOA then goes back and collects a fine for that? And they keep that fine?
In the older section, yes, because I don't think it's applicable in the newer
It's not
section yet.
applicable here yet, I don't think so. I guess my question would be, why do they get to keep that fee, or why do we pay for that, and why do they keep the fee?
I in turn asked for a cost share of $5,000 a year,
Yeah, and they told you no.
Declined.
And they told you no. So then, if they're the ones that need, because it's in their covenants and restrictions, if they're the ones that need to have that done to eliminate parking during the time frame that we say that you're not supposed to park on the street, overnight parking, why aren't they picking up that cost?
Marcia's here. That was agreed to, I want to say, 5 years ago, she said, by another board president.
Okay, but
Because-
should that be reconsidered by us as a board, that we are no longer going to pay for that?
Yes, we absolutely can.
Okay?
Yeah,
Just-
I was going to ask Andy if there is a binding contract on that or an agreement.
Okay, just something to think about, that's all.
Yeah, I asked Wes for the same cost share. They also said no.
Okay, thank you.
Even if there were typically any contract that I would prepare without a termination for convenience. Is that off the top of my head? I'm not aware of a contract, but if one does exist, I would expect that it has a termination for convenience provision in it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So board members, you do have Envira, and I did see security team is now represented here as well. Do you have any questions for them at this time?
I do have questions for both, actually. If there's any compatibility issues with the current cameras that we have, because they have been upgraded, would they be able to be integrated into your system?
Start with security team. You can answer first, and then we'll let Envira answer the same question.
Well, thanks for having me. Compatibility issues. Our system can take other third-party cameras, depends on the compatibility though. So there is a pretty high chance that your cameras may or may not be compatible with the system. I'd have to check those model numbers to be 100% compatible with the Vigilon software. So without knowing all that information, it'd be hard for me to give you an exact answer. But the systems, it can take third-party cameras.
It cannot.
Those are older cameras, they have a different compliance on them. They are audit compliant, but they have full nighttime. There are a lot of disadvantages to those cameras. Well, I don't know enough really. The ones that I've seen are the older type of cameras, although they're megapixel, the resolution, or the nighttime resolution isn't what it is today with the cameras. The cameras today give us brilliant pictures at night, where it allows us to use the analytics to monitor the pool at night, to monitor the clubhouse in the morning, and also to gather plates and that type of thing at the gates. So we live and die by our images. We live and die by our pictures. So we want to make sure we put in a quality camera that's going to give you the pictures when you need to have the pictures.
I would have to agree with that. Same thing with ours. I would have to agree with that. Plus, I would not be able to really warranty existing cameras, whereas I'm giving you a 3-year full warranty with all of our cameras. 3 years. No matter what happens to it, it's going to be completely replaced.
Okay, with your, you don't offer the automatic license plate recognition system?
The automatic license recognition?
You do?
Our system is license plate recognition cameras that captures an image and stores that image along with the rest of the data.
But does that automate the gates?
It doesn't. My system does not automate the gates. Okay. To automate the gates, the license plate recognition cameras are only about 99% accurate. And as many manufacturers as I've met with over a lot of years, they're only 99% accurate. So the long-range reader system is 100% accurate every time. So 99% sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot when you're talking, over 2,000 cars entering into that community on a daily basis. Well, over that. So 99%, 1% is, over 1,200 cars that could be denied.
Can I speak on that, please? Thanks. Our system does do license plate recognition, and we can get the visitors through in 3 to 5 seconds. We capture every tag and we store it as data. We also have a redundant camera that not only captures it as an image as well, so we capture it both ways, as data and on an image. So if we miss it and that 1% didn't catch the tag, well, we have it on video. But it's very accurate. We have it deployed in over 100 communities, and it works out great. It works out especially great for CDDs, because CDDs are public roads, and they can deny providing you an ID, but they can't provide you or deny you from capturing their tag and storing it as data.
Well, you have the microphone. Are there any penalties should we choose a portion of your proposal this evening if we decided to add more abilities to it at a later date, if we only chose a portion?
I'm sorry,
If your current proposal as is, if we decided to go with a portion of it and add additional cameras or additional gates at a later date, is there any penalty attached to that?
No. This is an a la carte menu. We can start off with a base and build it from there.
Okay.
Same thing with mine. Okay. And we were not talking about 99%. So the license plate recognition captures a plate every single time, 100%. We're talking about 99% accuracy to open the gate. So that's the difference. So my system will capture every single plate every single time, 100% of the time. We're only talking about actually opening the gate, which is why I selected a different system to open the gate for the residents versus plate accuracy.
So, you get 1,200 homes. If you get 99% of the tags and they're stored as data, 1% of 1,200 is, it's not a lot you're missing, but we still have the imager to go back and capture that and pull that tag out manually if we have to. But that's the benefit of license plate recognition. Everything's automatically stored as data, so you can get to that data and search that data in a quick fashion. I also like to talk to you about wages. Our proposal is a 3-year contract. It's a fixed contract. There's no raises. It includes all your maintenance, all your health monitoring, all your monitoring. We're providing almost 50 cameras throughout the community to record everything, and we're using analytics and Class D guards on the other side. The wages will not go up. They're going to be fixed for 3 years, and the most they can go up out in year 4 is 3%.
No increase in mine, ever.
One concern that was brought up was the money, and our proposal actually saves the community over the course of the 60-month agreement $125,000 compared to the guard service.
Understood.
Yeah, but that includes no daytime monitoring of the
Correct.
pools
Yes,
and
sir.
stuff, so
So
that
it's
would
not
have to be...
actually saving us anything.
You're not saving us anything.
You give a daytime monitor a tablet, and they can monitor both pools, and if they see something out of norm, then they can go and investigate it. But they can be able to essentially monitor both pools from here.
On site?
On site. And our proposal, by the way, included cameras, not only that covers the pool and all the amenities, to cover the clubhouse inside as well.
They both did. I made sure they matched.
But you're saying that you would supply a man here at both?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, we would provide you the technology for a man here.
So technically, we would still have to pay for manning of the
Yeah, correct me if
premise.
I'm wrong. Neither one of you or your organizations will provide human body people here I mean, but that's only for patrols. They're not, are you going to be
No,
providing
he has an
anything?
additional proposal to
I have
man the
additional
pools.
proposals that can provide a man here. Say, for any reason, the internet goes down, or for any reason at all that systems are not functioning, we can contract a company to come straight out and have a man here within the hour to stay here as long as possible until the systems are back up in place.
So just a point of reference, I need to give you both a worst-case scenario. We spent $6,500 last year in gate repair. Residents going through them, in failure, people stealing antennas. What does it cost if a resident busts through a gate and has to come
With
here?
my proposal, it's not going to cost you anything.
Ever.
At all.
Nothing. Or it's just unlimited video pulls, and not only that, we helped communities save almost $300,000 on gate damage last year, and pulling cameras, or pulling tags, and providing the information. Those communities saved almost $300,000.
So if somebody runs through our gate, it doesn't cost the CDD anything? You guys incur the cost?
We pull the video for you, we give you a link to the video, we run the tag, tell you who the car belongs to, so you have everything you need to recoup that gate damage.
No, but we still have to.
Yeah, you gotta put the
we still have
arm
to
back
pay-
on.
We still have to
Right.
pay
You
out
have
of
to pay
pocket.
it.
But
The arm
that's
put
what I'm
back on.
asking. The gate
Now,
goes
The
down.
proposal also is 3 years of a full
With your-
warranty of
with your-
every piece of equipment.
With your proposal, is it a recoup on our behalf that pays
No,
for
we will
that?
come out and do it for you.
And one of the
So
other,
there's no out-of-pocket cost to us if somebody runs through a gate?
No.
You
Ever?
come out, you
Nope.
put the arm back on, you
Nope, with my
repair it,
proposal,
no
no.
cost.
And what kind of time frame are we talking about putting the gate back up?
They'll be there the same day. We'll
So if it
have a
happens
technician
on
or somebody
Friday
out
night,
there.
they're going to be there Saturday morning?
That's
Sunday
correct.
morning?
Yep.
Okay. I know at a local community here that the gate was down for 3 days before it was put back up.
so with our system, we have health monitoring, it's gonna tell us if it's gonna monitor the vital signs of all the cameras, all the devices out there, and it's gonna be proactive in its service, not reactive. So if there's gonna be an issue, we're gonna know.
Unfortunately, the Copperleaf Gate was down for 3 days, and another company came to repair it. That's the question. Copperleaf's Gate was down from Saturday to Tuesday.
The Copperleaf Gate?
They're an Envira system.
So a lot of the communities locally, we don't do the swing gates, so we do the barrier gates. that go up and
It's
down.
barricade gate.
Okay, it could be ours or it could not. So a lot of companies have existing gates where we've taken over, and a lot of companies
It's a new
will have.
community.
A brand new
It's a
community.
brand new community.
It still depends. Still, like a lot of the developers, they might use main gate to put in their gate and
Okay.
us to do the virtual
Rewiring?
guard. So we have in our software what's called a gate break matrix, and it'll say dispatch main gate
Okay.
on the community's behalf. So I can't speak to that particular
Okay.
community and that particular
Unfortunately, it
incident.
was very visual.
Right. Yeah, it is.
That
Absolutely.
happened.
Yeah, I'd be happy to look at it.
No, it's just a question that has been proposed to me because it was at a very heavily used gate for our neighborhood. And at least 5 people have asked me, why was an Envira gate down for 3 days? I don't know.
It could have been
The benefit of
anything.
using Secure Team is we service main gate operators and swing gate operators as well, so.
Could have been internet, could have been anything.
No, it was broken right off. It was-
Oh, the gate was broken off?
Somebody drove through it.
Okay. So each community set up different in who responds and on those. Some people have somebody internally that will go and put the arm back on. Some people want us to come back and put it on. It varies from community to community.
Okay, thank you.
And the gates, do we code the barrier gates? Do we code barrier gates or are we taking over existing?
Adding LED arms.
Okay. Request exit motion.
I actually had another question. You both have the ability to take over the systems in all of our.
Yes, absolutely.
The actual, there's a security alarm on this.
Don't need it with our system.
Right, so you would take over all of that. We
We would
wouldn't.
take over and monitor the cameras inside and out. We're using video analytics and two-way voice with Class D guards on the other end.
Okay.
So our system, we can also take over the monitoring of both rec centers, as well as take over the monitoring of the fire alarm system as well. So we can take over monitoring the entire systems in the community.
Is all this being documented in a contract?
There's no.
And one of the biggest other things, I think, is the difference between our company. We manage 350 gates throughout Florida, and we all do it over high-speed modems, and 100 of them are using license plate recognition, and another 100 we're doing ID scanning. So everything we do is real-time conferencing. It's two-way audio, just like we're talking about, back and forth. It's not over a phone line. It's designed for speed and accuracy.
I think we're actually the same. So our system does the same.
You do everything over a high-speed?
Everything's over the high-speed internet. Nothing's over a phone line. I've heard that said several times. And let me just clarify, none of my systems are over phone lines. Everything's over the high-speed internet.
Now, do both your systems include all the internet fees that will be incurred?
No, but we did.
No.
No, but we do have IP brokers, and we did go and shop for internet, and we do have a report for you on the internet the report we came back with.
You have.
I also provided you with pricing for the internet. I have direct pricing from both providers.
For monthly use and?
For monthly use as well as installation. I can hand those out to the board if you'd like.
Yeah, please.
Again, I'd like to remind the board that we sell it, install it, monitor it, service it. We even write the code. We own every aspect of the business. There's no farming out of anything other than maybe boring under a road.
Now there's 3 different. I got 3 different.
I had a question on your kiosk that accepts the driver's license. Say in the unlikely event that somebody's driver's license gets jammed in that on a Saturday at 2 a.m. or Saturday morning at 2 a.m. He's coming in from a party, a visitor, and he's leaving on a flight on Sunday afternoon. What's he going to do?
We're not putting an ID scanner in. With our proposal, we proposed using license plate recognition, but to answer your question.
Well, the proposal I saw.
Yeah, we can do ID scanning, but we went with the license plate recognition because it's faster and you're CDD. But to answer your question, we have, again, a health monitoring system would alert us that there's a jammed ID, and then we would dispatch a technician.
My proposal doesn't have an ID scanner. It has an ID image trace. A camera looking at the ID.
So
the ID never leaves the residence or the guest's hands.
Ours is an actual scanner. It pulls the first name, the last name, and the ID number and stores it as data. Again, because you're a CDD, I didn't go with the ID scanner system. I went the license plate recognition system because these are considered public roads. We'll do the ID system for the same amount of money, but the ID system takes 13 to 15 seconds versus the license plate recognition, it takes 3 to 5. You got a busy gate.
Consider a trial period of a company at the front and rear gate with their kiosk, monitoring our traffic in and out, and bring other gates online as we are impressed with service. Would either of you be willing to do a 6-month contract or a 6-month trial period with the kiosks?
Yeah, we can look into something like that.
I can look into something like that for you as well.
What do we do with the current system that we have right now?
Oh, I mean the man gates?
Man gates, security guards here at the pool, at the clubhouse?
I
and the
think
rec
right now,
center, and at the front gate.
I would like to consider having access control at the front and rear gate, leaving the guards as is for a 6-month period, and seeing how this works out with regards to response time for anyone.
So no change in Allied Universal's
No,
services?
we're month to month with them right now. We could cut our monthly service and cut the gate guard or rotate the gate guard, still have our pool scheduled as is, still have our roaming patrol, which could be when this pool closes at 11, which could go out and do the patrol that way, or do an 11 to 7 roaming patrol. There's a lot of different ways we could do this just to guarantee satisfaction.
Do we have any idea what that additional cost is going to be?
That's what we have to run the numbers on. And we'd have to get numbers from you guys on what a trial, 6-month trial period to put your equipment in and do that.
So could you
Provide that right away for you.
Do you think you could do that in a week's time? For next Thursday, could you have that for the meeting?
Yeah, I could.
So whomever puts their kiosk in, there needs to be some sort of reader on the car, whether it's a windshield sticker or whatever. So people would have to, it will take some time for people to convert to.
We can still continue to use our clickers.
You'd run them
during
in
that period.
tandem? Okay.
We could still continue to run.
Yeah, because it will take
clickers.
time to implement all
I
residents.
just wanted to, in other communities that I've worked with, it takes time to get people to get the stickers on their car. and all
Right, right. But leaving the current microwave system up, we could still use our current access control while we work out the kinks per se. You know, getting everyone enrolled in the online portals, getting their stickers to them, and then set a hard stop date where your clickers don't work anymore.
And if we moved forward with us, we were also planning to provide a guard here during the transition time. However long that time takes, we were going to have a guard stationed here during the transition to help everybody along with this is how we're going to be using the system from now on. This is to help every guest and resident as they come through for a couple weeks to transition.
Okay, and you use RFIDs too, readers?
Yes.
And you, both of you do. Who, are either one of you willing to be the people here to put them properly, position them on people's vehicles?
We have an implementation team that does just that.
Yes, and with every single one where you have an issue, we'll send a technician out for that particular resident and troubleshoot it until it's right. Because there's different vehicles that have metallic film in the windshield, S-Class, Mercedes, Range Rovers, Teslas. There's different vehicles that you guys have that will require different placement for those credentials, and we'll do it with every single one.
And yours are primarily headlamp?
No,
position?
sir, actually windshield.
Windshield, so
Yes,
is
sir.
there any interference with SunPass and ePass and
Sometimes
such?
that's what he's talking about. Sometimes there are interferences. A lot of the windshields now have a lot of metallic in it.
Mhm.
That metallic takes away the signal away from the RFID chip. So there's alternatives. There's a side mirror, there's a bar, there's different alternatives that you can use for a credential to be outside the vehicle versus inside on the windshield.
Yeah, of course. We can have somebody here help anybody through it.
The other thing too with our services.
Remember, there's 3,000 vehicles in here, so it's a full-time job for somebody.
Yep, that's fine.
So one of the things we do with our system as part of our service is that we'll upload your database and backload it or send it to our servers every night at midnight and back it up. So if any of the devices out in the field crash, you already have your database backed up on our servers, which is local here in Sarasota.
Same. That's how the systems are designed to work. So
By next Thursday, 6-month trial period, kiosk at front and main gate. You guys can have numbers ready for that?
Yeah, it'd have to be.
Guest access, so
For
we
a
can pull down the
6-month
codes.
trial period?
6 months, yeah. Kiosk at front and main gate, as the current proposal reads, with the same camera.
So what exactly would be the scope? So we understand the scope to our apples to apples.
So our resident gates right now are the 5 side gates that don't have a guard or a keypad on them, but to essentially want to maintain resident satisfaction, that their guests are getting in at an appropriate amount of time, and that we're not spending a fortune on something that may or may not make everyone happy.
So are you just wanting the proposal to cover the front gate and the back gate and the
Correct.
other gates in other areas?
Nothing else.
Right now?
Just
Front-
the front and back gate
Front and rear
kiosk
gates,
system,
kiosks
right?
as is, LED gates as is in your current proposal.
And not touch the resident lane?
Don't touch the resident gates right now, because that's a significant investment until, and if we get through 3 months, then everything's great. Great.
Are we going to be doing this jointly?
Nope.
Or a 6-month and then another 6 months?
I would like each board member to do their homework and and decide which company they would like to work with by the next meeting, if they agree to a customer satisfaction, essentially.
Well, I'd like to make a proposal that maybe we also go off and survey this community and find out what they would like. Because right now, we've heard from a number of people, and I've entertained a number of discussions and some emails on this, and I think that it would be very important for us to go out and develop a plan for what we're going to do with this and see what their thoughts are. So that's going to take some time. That's not going to be a 10-minute job, okay? And it might not be done by the next meeting, because it's going to take time for them to mail out those surveys, get them back, and get their impressions on what they think this community needs.
We have a survey system, a resident survey system?
He's talking about doing an actual mail out.
Oh, okay.
We do not have a survey system, no.
Okay.
No, you'd have to do a mail out, and I think at that same time, I know Jim in his original statements...
If you please quiet down.
Jim in his original statements talked about developing a master plan. I think that should also be something that we would want to know, or they would want to know. What is the master plan for things such as this, such as raising fees, if we're going to consider raising fees, and why, and what are we going to use those fees for, and what are our priorities as a board to develop that?
Your team would also be interested in, if the board ever felt, we could do a 12-hour. So we could always start off with like 12 hours, being the night hour, 7 p.m. to 7 a.m., and you can always move into full 24 hours too. That's also another option.
Well, give us every option you guys think you can think of for a...
I'd be happy to.
You said with or without?
With.
Without credentials, right? Just the cameras? And
With credentials.
Yeah.
In order to do that survey, do we need a motion for that, or can we just ask you to do that? And send out a mailing?
No, I need a motion to do that. That's going to cost you money to do that, it costs money to mail out each letter.
I'll make that motion right now, that we send out a survey to the community, a mail-out survey.
We have a free survey system where it could be an email is sent, where we could email it out.
We don't have everybody's email.
No, you don't have everybody's email. I'd make that proposal that we send out a mail-out survey to the residents to determine their desires and what their thoughts and feelings are relative to the current security system, changing to the proposed systems, or a hybrid system, and then what their thoughts are on fees, because that's coming up.
No, I don't think fees have...
You don't want to do that at that time.
Anything to do with this at all,
Okay,
no.
then it'll be a separate survey at another time, so it's another mail.
I think
another
when we
cost.
get to the fee discussion, it might be a moot point as far as...
I'm just trying to kill
having a
two
survey.
birds with one stone and get it on the table, because if we're going to get it out there, we might as well get it out there with what our master plan is, what our long-term goals and objectives are, and what the residents and the community feel.
Because if you do decide to increase your assessments, that'll happen at your May meeting, which is your proposed budget meeting, which, as Denny, there will be a mail notice should you increase your budget at all. You can include, and I've seen communities do that, a survey or something along with it as one big mail out. But that's up to the board as well. That's obviously, you have to wait 2 months until that time frame, and then it probably will be middle of June by the time the residents see that anyways.
That's my motion at this point, to
The
send out...
motion, was a motion by Denny?
What is the motion?
out a survey, mailed survey to all the residents in the community to ask their opinions and solicit their opinions on the security systems that we're looking at right now.
I second it.
Second by Jim. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Thank you very much for having us down.
Do you still want these, and we still want those proposals for next week, though, please, by next Thursday?
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That way, the mailing will get to the people after next week's meeting anyhow.
Correct. I'll draft the survey and I'll send it to the board, and if you have any changes, let me know. I'll try and get it out by, audience members, if you'll please quiet down at this time. So what I'll do is I'll bring a draft to next Thursday's meeting. If you're okay with it, I'll have it prepped and ready to go and see if we can have the mailing ready to go out next Friday.
Thank you.
That way, right, any changes can be discussed at our meeting.
Perfect. I'll bring copies, and if I'll have it drafted before then, send it out to you prior to. Thank you both for attending.
Thank you very much. So we'll have the proposals ready for you for Thursday. Do you want us here on Thursday as well?
Up to the board. I don't think that's necessary.
I don't think you guys need to come out again.
Thank you, Allied, as well, for attending tonight as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, board.
Next up, board members, we have the landscape priority items under tab number 2. Thank you, Richard, for sticking through it once again. Under the second tab of your agenda, board members, there's a number of proposals that I'm sure we will go through. They're all in numerical order as well, Richard, as well, if you have them in numerical order in front of you.
Here.
You want to go through it like this?
Yeah,
Okay.
I can just
and then
go through 'em.
Just scroll down, and that's what the board's looking at the same time.
Okay.
So that way you can just refer to what's on the tablets for that.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, thank you for allowing me to address you again. We basically took the proposals and we did put them into some sort of order so that we could, in fact, look at them. In fact, I even did rank these, so when we get done, if we want to go through the rankings of what we thought would be most important to least important, we can do that as well. Starting out again with the irrigation system, the first was replacement of the front clock, which is the 2-course system, and that was the first proposal that we presented to you relevant to the irrigation system. And that involved coming in and replacing that clock or doing something with it. If I remember correctly, the proposal was somewhere around $7,500 to do so.
And I think we decided, that as long as it's working, to
Yes.
leave it in place.
Yeah. The next was then looking at the Rosemary Pocket Park and that area and dealing with adding some sort of controller to that. And again, in that particular case, I think the actual proposals that we made to you, that was the one that I think made the most sense to consider doing, because it would eliminate a lot of the node issues that we've been dealing with and have to deal with going forward. That is basically installing a clock system, putting controllers in, and then running the systems through that method. And we provided 2 opportunities for choices there as well. One was a hardwire system where we were actually using electrical, and the other was a solar system which we would run off of solar. And our recommendation there was to hardwire with electrical, since we could probably run them off of your monuments, would make the most sense. Last one again was basically the Greyhawk Boulevard Cora area, which again was pretty extensive because there's nothing at this point there. It was a fairly expensive move. That I think we ranked as something that would be your second choice in terms of the irrigation. Certainly a little more costly because there would be some, if I recall correctly, some boring involved, electrical lines, things like that, that would be established.
And then last was the two-core, and as we just talked about, we would not go forward with that until the controller fails, and at that point, we can decide what you can do. Questions that you would have on that?
Can you just go, basic, so the board has them starting on page 78. You've got, if you scroll down that way, I think it's probably going to be easier for the board to follow than on that main page, because after that main page, they're all out of order after that.
Yeah, that's what I was.
You're then looking at each one of the...
Yeah, so just go, you have like 37 pages of proposals. So starting on page 78, you can just kind of explain each one, rank the priority, and then I would say just move to the next one. Probably be the easiest method. So starting on page 78, the estimate number is 50195.
Let me get the tablets.
Actual line that's broken currently.
Okay, so I see the first one I have here was the... this would be this one right here. Sorry. Thank you. This was a proposal that we had provided for repair a 2-inch line, PVC pipe, 2-inch couplings, and the cost to repair a 2-inch main leak. And that was $243.32.
That, and as I was saying, that line is currently broken.
It's been repaired.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah, these are all covered basically under,
Yes.
under the extension to the 90-day
Yes.
clause?
Oh, okay.
That's correct. So
Okay.
all of these have been accomplished and repaired.
So the second section of your initial sheet, irrigation repair estimates, those have already been completed starting at 50105?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you want to go through these one by one, we certainly
Just want to
can do
make
so.
sure that they've been addressed, just want to make sure that they've been addressed. So 50195 has been completed. So the next one on page 79, 51366.
And that one is a repair of a surge module, which again has been completed. And the surge module is just a component within the controller itself.
Thank you. The next,
is the 380, and this one is dealing with the 2-core controller. This one is the actual proposal we made if we had to replace that controller. This has not been done. This is just our proposal to you, so you have an idea of what that
When it
expense
stops
would be, if and when that happens.
Yeah, the $7,000.
380.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to create a proposal tracking list for you. I'm taking notes on each one to show you what's been done so far to date from LMP as well. That's why I'm taking notes on each of these.
514, create tree rings around the trees, and this was concerning the honeyflower loop and the trees that were actually were damaged during mowing operations, and this was a proposal to go in and actually ring those trees so that they weren't damaged any further. We have not done anything with this other than present this as a proposal or an option.
Ed, did you get pricing on, and do you have that pricing?
It's not here.
Okay, that'll be on next week's agenda. Okay.
I'll put this one on next week's.
516 is sodding of the lot that, right over here, lot 1 at 839 Honeyflower Loop. That was a resident who had complained that her property values were being affected by the fact that the vacant lot next to her, or the lot owned by the CDD, needed to be sodded because it was in such poor condition, and our proposal was $3,000 to sod that lot. As we discussed earlier, it was something that you, if I recall, decided that you would hold on, and we have not done anything with it.
Hey, board, want to take any action on it? Want to see it on next week agenda or anything, or just decline to take action?
Let's decline to take action right now.
Okay, I'll keep it on the list, though.
Thank you.
520, clean up the perimeter wall area. Actually, we did not do anything on this either. We made some adjustments when we met with Jim about how that should be handled, so this proposal basically would be off the table.
That's already been taken
Yeah, we took care of that in-house, so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
550 is a repair of a faulty irrigation controller rain sensors. This has been done. It was in essence, putting on a rain sensor onto a clock so that the rain sensor was functioning properly. So this has been completed.
Thank you.
551 is dealing with the several nodes that needed to be replaced and the cost to replace 5 faulty battery-operated nodes, and that has been done.
Thank you.
564 is a proposal to deal with the initial inspections of several zones and replace 2 faulty controller valves, which again has been done. Next is 565. This was a zone 1, 3, 30, and 35 tracking and troubleshooting for the valves that we could not find in the irrigation system, and this has been done. What we do is wire track these from a location to look for the valve, and that's what this involved. And that was our estimate to do so, and we did do this. 566 is a microjets or a nozzle that needed to be re-nozzled. It probably was one of the locations from what I'm reading here that involved the flower areas, and they've been re-nozzled with different nozzles to get better water, and it has been done. Sorry, I lost my place.
It should be 51567, page 89.
Okay. There we go. I believe the one 564, is that where we're at?
51567, page 89. It should say 89 at the top of the tablet.
I'm not seeing that. I'm sorry. 86?
Yes, so it says, they're on page 86, 87, 88.
89?
This is the one the board's looking at right now.
Okay, okay. This one, again, was the nozzles as well that have been replaced, so this has been done.
Can we just kind of skip to the ones that haven't been done? If these have already been done, I don't think, yeah, they're already done, so. Can we just go cover the ones that have not been completed on this list?
Look through these and 568 has been done. 569, that has been done. 570, that's been completed. 571, another tracking issue, that's been done. 731, this is page 94. This would be the Rosemary and Rosemary Pocket Park proposal for putting in.
Actually, page 94 through 97.
Yes, you're right.
That's actually the automation and the replacing of the nodes for that section.
That is correct. Continue.
Continue.
Next one is the proposal for the controllers with the use of a solar controller versus the hardwire electrical. And that would be the same components, same areas, it's just, it would be a different price simply because of the technology involved. The cheaper would be the hardwired, and that's the one we recommended.
And that's only by less than $1,000, the
Yes.
difference?
Yeah.
So board, do you want to consider that now while we've got both of them in front of you?
I'd like to table it and give it some more thought and see what we come up with with our exploration of the development order that our legal team's doing right now.
Understood.
Next one is the Manatee to Cora South Loop, and this would be installing irrigation in that area. That one is 733, and that is $57,000 to install a system that would cover that area. I'm assuming we'll move on from that one as well.
Another one, Jim.
And that is all the way from
Yes.
from the north gate all the way through to where the irrigation stops currently.
Yep,
On the
that's correct.
boulevard.
There's nothing currently?
There is no irrigation from where it stops just beyond the clubhouse to the north gate along Greyhawk Boulevard.
And what are we going to be using for water there? Are we going to be using reclaimed water, or are we going to be using?
Not with this proposal, it's not.
Okay. So who will end up paying for that water? The board. We will, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Next is a proposal that has been done.
That's 51783.
Right. 784 is also one that is done. 199 is a proposal for the sidewalk to curb along the Greyhawk Boulevard. And as you are probably all aware, there is an issue there where the turf is almost completely gone for a number of reasons. And one of the requests was to give us, give you some proposals on what alternatives would be. And what we recommended here would be removing all the turf from the Mulberry intersection all the way down to the circle and replacing it with Asiatic variegated jasmine, which is a vine-type material that you could walk on, people could stand on, and it would replace the turf. At this point, with the different problems that we're having there with water issues, because while we've changed some of the nozzles there, we've improved some of the watering capability, the water actually waters between the sidewalk and the curb and across the sidewalk. So it's a very difficult situation to keep that watered adequately. So that's one of the reasons this was recommended, plus all the leaf accumulations that form in the area have damaged that turf to the point where there's nothing left.
I think that's an item for further discussion.
I'll place that on next week's agenda.
Next is 200, and this is a pocket park removing the bracing of the braces off the magnolias, and that has been completed. See, 290 is weed eat the banks along the creek that runs from the baseball diamonds to Pump 3. For whatever reason, that has never been dealt with. It's just standing dead weeds at this point. So we suggested that it be something to be considered for removal by just having our guys mow it down.
I'd make a motion to do that one.
Motion from Jim to approve estimate 58290 in the amount of $473. A second from Denny. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Next is 291, cleaning up the brush at Pump 3. As you walk down that sidewalk, you'll come across a concrete covered area that is just littered with pepper trees and a number of other unsightly things. When we walked that, we talked about whether or not we should consider removing that and cleaning it up. And by removing the invasive species and then creating at least a bed form that you can see through and realize that there should be something there other than just a mangled mess.
I'd like to table that until next week and invite any of the board members to take a walk down that trail, because I have, and it is very unsightly. But I'd also like to let the neighbors that would be impacted by it know what might go on.
branch as well, and they would not be removing it. They would be lifting those trees up and cleaning that area out as well.
Okay, so Thursday we can have that.
We'll have both of those on next week's agenda.
Next one, 292, actually has been dealt with, so that would no longer be an issue. 305 has been completed. 307 is yet to be done. That should be, I have it scheduled on our schedule for next Thursday. And
That was 306, correct? Not 305?
307, I'm sorry.
306 is done, 307 is scheduled.
306 is done. 307 would be the one that is scheduled for planting next Thursday, and that would be at the Rosemary Pocket Park.
So that 58307 you said scheduled for next week?
Yes. The next one is a proposal that was asked for again to look at creating a barrier between the residents off of Honeyflower Loop, adding a viburnum hedge back there where the trees were going to be removed, if in fact they were going to be removed. And at that point, it just was a proposal idea to be looked at.
Yeah, they're going to.
Has that been?
Going to be dead in a couple of years.
Has that been communicated to all those residents back there, that that's the proposal, that you're going to take those trees down, which will open up that area between their homes and the homes on Cara Loop, and that and what your plan is to do once you take those down? Are you going to do anything? You're going to put apparently a hedge, from what I've heard.
That would make the most sense to put a hedge in.
But
there.
has that been communicated to anybody on that own
No, it
those
has
pieces
not.
of property?
No, it has not yet.
I would think that we probably ought to at least let them know that that's the plan, and then if we approve it.
If we implement either one of them, yes. We
Okay,
will.
then maybe, do we need to send something to them also, to those folks?
To you, it's your property. You can do it as you wish.
I understand, but I'm just trying to be reasonable with the people that live on both sides of that, Cara Loop and Honeyflower Loop, that they understand.
There's actually 2 rows of trees there, so
Yeah.
all of the trees would be removed?
No, just the
larger
smaller
one,
ones.
the smaller ones.
The smaller
Okay.
ones are all girdled.
Yeah, they're not
And they're going to be
growing.
dead within a couple of
And
years.
they were put in by the developer.
Yeah, and they haven't grown a
Was he
bit in
required to
5
do
years.
that?
I imagine the county was part of the mitigation count.
Yeah, and so if we take it down, are we obligated to put something else up?
Andy?
I can tell you that in most cases you would. There is a ordinance in both Sarasota and Manatee. Yeah.
I can't tell you off the top of my head. I would guess that you do, but I can't confirm.
We don't know if it was actually part of his requirement to.
Right, if it's just something you put in extra or something, then you would have, but I don't.
Yeah.
I just think it'd be good to know that if he was.
I'll have that information for next week.
And once again, probably notifying the people on Cara Loop and Honeyflower Loop that are going to have that buffer, if you will, taken away, that, we are going to, or we are not going to do anything once we remove it.
I'll have this for next week. I'll work with Rick on this.
Okay.
All right,
That's it.
That's all of them.
I'll create a list. I'll have it for you guys next week. I'll have a breakdown of what's been completed so far, what's been spent so far, and then the other ones that are tabled, I'll place back on the agenda as well.
Okay.
Correct.
That's what I was going to ask now.
Yeah, I'll
Thank
make
you.
sure that the ones that we didn't approve tonight that you want to look at next week, and that we'll have comparison quotes for on as well.
Thank you.
I took notes on all of, I believe it's 36.
Yeah.
Anything else for LMP at this time, board members?
No, because we're going to do the regular landscape update next week, right? Correct? That'll be part of the agenda? Or?
Yeah, we can do the regular landscape update next week, so we'll see you next Thursday, Richard. Appreciate your time
Okay,
tonight.
thank you.
Good, thank you.
Next up, board members, not on your tablets, this is just something for discussion, review of reserve funding upcoming budget. So your chairman asked me to do some research in regards to reserve funding. What is in fact true is, and I'll pull this up right here for you as well. So your fiscal year 2013, Series 2013 bond, your total bond proceeds were $4,502,000. $1,223. Your excess revenue from that bond was $1,105,057, which is the majority of your reserve fund. So you are correct in the fact that when Greyhawk West was developed, that is the majority of your reserve fund.
So, yeah, that was my point. And now that, if Greyhawk West didn't come into being, Greyhawk East resurfacing of the roads would have been a financial burden to the people who are living there, correct?
That's correct. You would have had roughly $100,000 if Greyhawk West bond proceeds did not occur.
So, given that, and then given the current state of our operating budget today, which we're basically $116,000 over budget, which means the reserve fund in 2019 will not be funded at
this current rate.
At the current rate.
At the current rate of spending, correct.
So instead of putting $169,000 into the fund, currently, if we were to close the books right now, we'd put $50,000.
That's correct.
So that is why the discussion came up about implementing a fee increase now, because when we do resurface the roads, which are scheduled in 3 years.
That's correct for Greyhawk East.
And it's years 3, 4, and 5.
That's correct off the top of my head.
And that will probably deplete the reserve fund that we currently have. And at that point, any expenditure we have, like roofs on these buildings, pool problems, anything else, there would have to be an assessment. And the resurfacing of the road on the rest of the property are going to have to be addressed at the time too. Expenses continue to go up, and the major issue with the whole thing is our revenue stream is about to end because we're almost built out. We're not going to recoup, we're not going to gain revenue every year that's been going on as new homes come in and people are paying that $2,400 a year. So our revenue stream is about over, is increasing. So the only way in a taxable situation is to increase, to beat our increasing expenditures is to increase fees. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that's reality. It's just like, your cable bill goes up. Either you don't watch TV or you pay an increased cable bill, or you cut the cord and do something different. I don't know of anything on our budget that has not been bid that's a major expense. So we've gone out to competitive bidding on everything. We're doing that on security right now, trying to get a better pricing on that. We're trying to get a better, we just went to a new contract with Landscape. We went through a whole bid process with that, which was kind of inaccurate with the bid pricing, which, is impacting the provider of that. And we also just signed a new aquatic lake and wetland maintenance contract, which went out to a competitive bid. So those are our major things that we have as far as expenses. And if anybody, wants to suggest a way to cut those fees, those costs down, I'd like to know how. Yeah, I'm open for suggestions on that. And basically, the fee that I envisioned increasing everybody by was approximately $12 a month or $150 a year. And I think that would fully fund the reserve fund and meet our obligations as our current expenses for the foreseeable future. And I'm talking probably 10 years.
And at our current rate, at $150 over the next 3 years, rather than receiving a $1,500 assessment when our reserves are 100% depleted in the next 3 years.
So I hope that kind of puts the a different perspective on it instead of the rumors that have been flying around that we're increasing fees and everybody, I've heard everywhere from, $100 to $2,000 per year. So, there are reasons, and believe me, I'm as fiscally sound as anybody. I've done budgets at multi-million-dollar facilities for years, and I know how to cut costs, and I just don't see any place where we can cut costs here because, a lot of things that we're doing are required maintenance. I don't know any of these things that we could get a majority of the people in this community to say, we're not going to, don't do that anymore.
I just wanted to point out that should the board decide to make a decision to put a budget out there in June with an increase in assessments, that it will, by necessity, require a public hearing and mailed notice, so all the residents will have an opportunity to provide their input and comment.
So that would preclude sending out any additional mailings for something of that nature, because it'll be an open meeting, budget meeting, and residents will have their opportunity.
And the reason why I wanted to, start this discussion now is because I don't want this to be a surprise come August or something when somebody gets a mailing. I said when we first took over that we wanted this to be as transparent as possible, and that's why we want to have these discussions. And, everybody's got my email. Feel free to email me. As everybody here knows, I answer everybody's email, and that's even when I'm out of the country. So Wi-Fi is a wonderful thing. So, or not, yeah. I didn't know this job was 24/7, but it is, so.
The thing I wanted to share with the board members, I just received this from Sam Rogers. All the lots in Greyhawk West are now platted. So in phase 4, lots through 318 through 375 are going to be 60-foot lots. 472 through 482, 60-foot lots. 267 through 317, 70-foot lots. And in phase 5, you have lots 376 through 445 are all 60-foot lots, and 446 through 471 are 70-foot lots. So
how many lots in total is that?
Give me 1 second, I'll tally that for you.
Because that's another inaccurate number that's floating around.
If we're going to do that and possibly propose a fee increase in the May timeframe for or whatever, I think it would be very advantageous that we had some kind of a master plan and what our proposal is going to be to use these increased fees.
Well, right now,
I mean, I'm willing to, we are pretty familiar with it because we see what that is. But I don't know how many people out here really understand why their fees are going to be going up.
Right now, it's, that fee proposal is primarily to be dedicated to fund the reserves.
Let me also add that this mail notice that I'm discussing, it has to hit, it has to hit some statutory language, and so there'll be a lot of that that's in it. That being said, a lot of my communities, and you may want to do the same, write non-legalese little memo that you can shove in there in the envelope, same cost of mailing and everything, that helps explain to the residents what your plan is and some of the things that were discussed tonight of the reason for the increase and such. So that may be something you want to put along with the legalese notice that we have to send.
Yeah, because I think when they hear a number in a reserve fund of $1.2 million and all of a sudden in 3 to 4 years that's gone, they probably don't really, some of them may not understand that I think it's around $800,000 is allocated just for the roads over in the Greyhawk East. That's where that money is going to go.
Unfortunately, right now, it would go to just meeting our current budget.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that 800,000 was based on estimates that are a couple years old, and
Right.
the cost of asphalt and grinding and everything else has gone up because the economy is so good and there's a lot of road construction going on. There's very few contractors to do it.
So phase 4 are going to be lots that we that we incur the assessment dollars on. There's 117 lots that are platted in phase 4. The ones left in phase 5, there's 94 total. Which have been platted. And there's only, keep in mind, board members, there's still I've reached out to Richard about the phase 5B turnover, haven't heard anything about that either.
Yeah, there's been no discussion with Richard about.
I reached out to him prior to tonight, and he hasn't indicated, he hasn't approached us, he hasn't sent us any documents as well. So nothing's been signed by the board, nothing's been turned over at all either. So.
And I'll let everybody else know here that, since I'm somewhat familiar with development orders and investigating some of the things that I felt were shortcomings in, at least in Greyhawk West, that we might still have an opening to get corrected by the developer. I've kind of given Andy a task, and I've also reached out to a couple other attorneys in the community to go over the development orders and find out if we have any recourse going after the developer on some of the issues that we have that are listed as far as landscape things and other things that are big ticket items for us.
How many lots will be in west? Here's number low.
500. Give me 1 second, and I'll have to pull up the total.
I want to say around 550. Yeah.
Capital reserve budget, is there any statutory requirement or what is considered using accounting?
No.
There's certainly guidelines, and, we've had a reserve study which given some recommendations to the board, but there are no statutory minimum requirements, or there's not even a statutory requirement to have a reserve fund. This board, as most of my CDDs have, taken the prudent course of action to try and build up some reserves, but there's no statutory requirement that you even have to do that. So they could say, hey, roads are up, everybody's going to have to chip in for the $1 million. I mean, there's just no minimums that are required by Chapter 190.
Yeah, go ahead, Wally.
The numbers on the required hearings have to do with the proposal or forecast for 20 years. So how the budget was going to get spent, and a big hit, like you're saying, was for roads. But the way the budget went, it looked like a curve. We're going to spend a lot of money over like three or so years. And then after that, we're going to have, according to that projection, we're going to have a $3 million budget surplus once you got over that hump over a number of years. The point that people were saying is, if you just spread it out, you got no problems at all. You don't have to do anything.
Unless you live on that road that's full of potholes.
They waited another year.
I don't think so. You got your brand new Tesla driving down the road and going to blow your tires out.
And then, Marcia, for your answer, so that you have 475 right now, with a 94 additional, it'll go to 569. 569 will be the total count. So the 569 plus the current 785, give me 1 second. That total is 1354.
What Walter was discussing, I remember seeing something like that at a meeting, I think before.
I remember that too.
Yeah, before, I don't remember if it was when the new board showed up,
it was before that.
It was before that, because I remember, and there was an allocation of what dollar values, and as he said, you'd get to the point where you'd reach the bell curve, then you'd go down the other side of it, and you would recoup some of that money back within a short period of time, like within 2 or 3 years, you would be, say again? No.
That the debt service funds we're looking at?
Yeah, that debt service.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, that's different. Those were the ones that we did. Remember Rod Bettini came in from Municipal Asset Management Group? I believe that's the bell curve you're referring, but that's the debt service fund. That has nothing to do with the reserve fund.
Yeah.
So that wouldn't be a surplus $3 million budget?
No.
Okay.
all right.
Those two never cross.
No, those do not cross.
Yeah, I don't know how we could have a $3 million surplus budget.
And the only thing we're investing right now is those debt service funds. We're not investing any reserve funds at this time, just the debt service
And our
funds.
current debt allocation is approximately 30% of which every resident pays in their fees every year.
That's
30% of what you pay in fees goes to debt repayment, not back to Greyhawk.
And that stays constant unless we were to refinance it, potentially lower it.
What about, I don't know if anybody has done this, but there may be some people who've paid their debt service up, and
They just pay a lower fee annually on their tax bill.
Yeah, I understand, but there may be a few that have done that. I don't remember how many.
Yeah, let me see.
I don't think it's going to impact it significantly, but just so they're aware that some people have already paid that off.
But that's a whole different thing. They still are responsible for the R&M part of in the reserve.
Right.
They're $500. They're paying $500 less basically per year.
And your fees are based on your lot size, not that not everyone in the neighborhood pays the same fee. A 60-foot lot doesn't pay what a 75-foot lot pays.
Yeah, the biggest lot you have is the 120-foot lot, which this year on your tax bill you paid $2,615.85. Lot paid $1,538.74 for the 60-foot lot with the Series 2011 debt service payments. So that's in the original section over there.
I just heard a lot of people say, well, we all pay. No, we don't. We don't all pay the same.
This is all. If anyone would like a copy of the assessment breakdown, please let me know. I would be happy to send it to any resident that requests it. This page right here is up on your webpage as well. It's the last page of your budget. It's actually page 15 of 16 of the budget that's posted on the greyhawkcd.org webpage. So I encourage you, if you want to see what all the lots are paying, greyhawkcd.org, go to the budget for fiscal year 18-19. There's a PDF document that's 16 pages. On page 15, it gives you every single lot breakdown and what every single person would pay. And you can match it up with your tax bill to see where you fit in regards to what debt service level you're paying and what your operations and maintenance is paying. And keep in mind that the only thing that'll go away in a CDD is that debt service payment once the bond's paid off. You'll always see on a CDD bill the operations and maintenance assessment. It's all grouped into one on your tax bill, but once you pay off that debt service payment, once the bond's paid off, unless the board decides to take out any additional bonds, which I'm not hearing right now, could.
Well, that's why we're trying to fund the reserves.
Correct.
So we don't have to.
And that's what the board is trying to do at this time. And so if they obtain that goal and not have to take out any more bonds, then the for let's say a 90-foot lot with the Series 2011 debt service, the only thing you'd see is $1,561.49 less the $746 for the debt service payment.
And
once that
those are
bond's paid
30-year
off.
bonds?
Correct.
All bonds are 30 years.
Well, once the refinance happens, I'd have to double check, and I believe this is exactly what Tom Fallon asked as well.
Okay.
I'm going to do some research right here on them. You refinanced in 2011, and you took your new bond out in 2013 for West.
Okay, so it would be 30 years from
For 2013 bond would be 2043. You haven't refinanced that one, but I have to double check for the Series 2011 to see if you refinanced from the original. Yeah, that might have shortened it to 20 to make it 2031, but I'm going to double check that for you.
I heard a fee of $100,000 for the replacement of the slide.
Grab the mic. Sorry. I heard $100,000 mentioned for the replacement of the slide.
We're going to talk about that next week, but...
Okay, I was just interested which budget that would come out of.
Let's put it this way, it's all one pie. It's just that, it's two slices. There's the reserve and there's the operating. It's all the same money. So if we take it out of the reserve fund, that just depletes the reserve fund, or we take it out of the operating budget, which means we don't fund the reserve fund this year. So it's the same. It's just a paper shuffle.
And basically what you would do is until we collected those assessment dollars, the reserve fund, if we went over budget, would have to float the general fund until we collected all the assessment dollars for the next fiscal year. So next fiscal year, the reserve fund would have to basically float for 3 months. All this, if we did have that increase, it would float it for approximately 3 months till all of the tax bill assessment dollars were incurred. Any other questions from the board at this time? Anything, I had one other item on there for the aeration unit. From what I've gathered, it's been installed and it should be up.
Lake 10, the lines have been run. Lake 7, they were putting the main line that goes from Lake 10 through they're starting to put it through underneath the road through through the Lake Connect. They're still waiting for a final word on, FP&L. So, actually, they're being very proactive and ahead of schedule. I did have one other thing. We did have a request for additional midge treatments, and I do have the pricing here for them. I just got them in today. Chemical treatments for Lake 7 and Lake 10. No, there's been such an influx of activity that we'd like to see if we could break the life cycle now before the aeration gets going. And I was made aware of the fact today that those lakes were stocked at the end of last year.
It should have been stocked in October. I'll double check the invoice from the fish company.
So the proposal comes for, I think it's 4 treatments, 2 weeks apart or 3 weeks apart? 3 weeks apart. By Solitude, and it's total about $4,200 for both lakes. Yeah, it'd be 2 months. I would make a motion to do this.
I was just going to say that it's not on the agenda, so if you do, which is fine, we would just have to open it up to public comment.
Okay, let's open it up to public comment.
Well, so you've made a motion. Does anybody want to second it? Okay, and then we'll need to take public comment, and then we can have a vote.
Any comments in regards to midge fly treatments?
My hearing's not too good. But anyway, when are the ponds going to be restocked? I know on my pond, where I live on, the pelicans were there for 7 consecutive days.
Well, we were just discussing that before the meeting, and I asked where the fish stocking expense went into, and I didn't know it was under aquatic plants because I didn't think a fish was a plant, but it's in that, and we've already spent $6,000 out of the $10,000, and we haven't put any plants in yet this year, so we're gonna see what we can do.
And I'll have those invoices for you next week for exactly the quantities that were stocked as well.
For the audience, when we originally decided to put the aerations in, we said we wouldn't do any chemical treatments until we had some time to see how that worked, but it's gotten worse, so the residents around the 2 ponds have requested that additional treatment. That's why we are proposing to do this treatment for whatever it was, $4,800.
$4,200. And we had a motion on the table from Jim, a second from Danny. All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Last item on the agenda would be supervisor requests. Seeing none, board members would be seeking a motion to adjourn.
I
Motion from
second
Danny,
it.
second by Jim. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Considers me adjourned at 7:46.